Everyone, and welcome to another jam-packed episode of My Favorite Conservative. I am Edward.
And I am Andrea, but I am not conservative.
You're not?
No,
Oh,
but he is my favorite conservative.
thank you very much. Well, we have a lot of big stories that's broken this past week. I mean, a lot.
All
but
right.
None bigger
Okay.
than, now wait for it,
I am waiting. Go.
Mike Pence has dropped out of the presidential race.
Moment of silence.
Yeah.
Not a shocker.
I think the question is, why did you get in the first place? So,
well, if the rumors are to be believed, well, I think there's two parts to this. One, if you've already been the governor of a state, you've already been the VP, sort of the next level is president. I mean, there's sort of, that's the next logical step.
Even though there is no path, I think
that's true. But the more cynical pundits will say that he was doing this just so he can get on the board of a major corporation, and that might be true.
Yep.
I don't know.
Could be.
Okay. All right. Surely we have other news.
We do.
All right. So I know we were hoping by the time we went live that we would have a new Speaker of the House of Representatives, and we do. Who is it, Edward?
Well, it's the world famous Mike Johnson.
Who?
Mike Johnson out of
who?
Louisiana.
I still don't know who it is.
Actually, he's a Stephen Colbert lookalike.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that'll be...
Oh, God, I wish we could put them up side by side, but we're not that sophisticated yet.
But
okay.
Yeah, he is a representative from Louisiana.
Okay.
He is a conservative. He's been in the House since 2016, so he's not a lifer by any means. Which is, you know what?
Younger guy?
Yeah, gosh, I don't actually have his age. I think he's in his 40s.
Okay.
But yeah, it's nice to not have, the next senior person in line kind of thing. So, it's good to see.
All right. So I did look him up because I had never heard of this guy before, ever. And what struck me is that he is in a covenant marriage.
What do tell?
Yes. So I had to look that up. I don't know what that is. What the hell is that? So a covenant marriage it's a very legal, distinct kind of marriage. It's only in 3 states that recognize a covenant marriage: Arizona, which honestly surprises me, Arkansas, Louisiana. And it's when the marrying spouses agree to obtain premarital counseling, and they have to go through certain steps before they can even seek a divorce. So, for example, the least strict of these steps is they have to live apart from each other for 2 years before they can move forward with a divorce.
I did not know that.
Yes. And Louisiana, where Mike Johnson is from, was actually the first state to pass the covenant marriage in 1997. And then Arkansas and Arizona, for whatever reason, followed suit. It's very interesting, though, since its inception, very few couples in those states have married under this law, but apparently he and his wife did. And that leads us to the next complaint about him.
Well, yes, that he's too religious. I want the same people that are calling him too religious to say the same thing to Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, anybody that is not Christian. Please tell them that they are too religious and see where that gets you, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's interesting. He does have 4 children. They have 4 children, he and his wife. 3 biologicals, and the first biologicals, yes.
Did you just turn biological from an adjective to a noun?
Yeah. Is that what I did?
Yes, you did. Okay.
Hence the nerd next to me.
I am an English nerd. I own it.
Actually, his oldest child, if you will, who they raised when he was from a teenager up, is a young black man, of which Saturday Night Live last night actually made fun of him on the cold opening. They were making fun of Joe Biden, shockingly, but brought in a Mike Johnson character, and then brought in his adult black son, of course, with all these innuendos and whatnot. Because obviously...
Wait, you watched SNL without me?
I watched the cold open because I saw it, and I saw Mike Johnson.
Okay.
So I was doing a little research.
We need to go back and watch it. Okay.
We did. Yeah, it was just last night. But they're trying to throw up all these questions about why he, raised a black son and whatnot. So, you can never please.
All right. Well, what is Mr. Representative, Johnson's agenda for the House?
Well, I didn't know a whole lot about him, I'll be honest with you. I'd seen him on a few Sunday shows and interviews, things like that. But, people that I listen to that are conservatives seem to have a positive image of him, which is good. And the budget or the agenda that he's laid out so far looks good. Talking about the budget, first thing is we do not want to do a new CR, a continuing resolution.
For people who may not know what that means, what is a continuing resolution?
It is when Congress can't get together and actually do a budget. They just say, well, we'll just go with the last budget and keep that going.
So what they've been doing for more than a decade.
Yes, correct. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I like that.
That is the true definition of kicking the can down the road. Yes, it is. Well, we can't all agree. So God knows we shouldn't do the hard work. Let's just move it forward. So he's promised not to do that. Now they are up against a timeline because coming up next month is when everything expires and they have to have a budget.
It would be so nice for our government to actually have a budget.
Yes.
That would be phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be good.
Yes. What are some other things on his agenda?
Let me say this, a budget that works.
Oh, well,
you can have a budget, you could go over budget.
Yeah, but I mean, this whole kicking a can down the road thing does need to stop.
Yeah.
It needs to stop.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
One of the really nice things that I saw was that, Biden went on TV this past week, I think it was, and in his feeble-minded self, talked that we needed $100 billion right now that we have to give to Ukraine and Israel. And it has to be combined, and that's it, and just do it and send us the money or send them the money. No. Mike Johnson has said they will be individual bills. So this open checkbook that we've had for Ukraine, I'm hoping that they start tightening up on that. Because,
I agree.
Yeah, we're just spending, money we don't have.
You know how I feel. We need to take care of our own country, our own borders before we take care of Ukraine and Israel.
Yeah. And Israel's obviously in a difficult situation. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show.
Yep.
But separate the two, make people vote on different
I agree with that.
bills. Yes.
Yeah.
Quit trying to jam
it seems
everything
actually
into,
almost too logical.
I know. And that's what gets you in trouble. You can't be logical. We're the government. So, yeah. And then finally, what really I liked a lot about him is he said, we are going full steam ahead on the Biden impeachment inquiry, with everything that's been going on in the world, with shootings, with wars and everything else. This was kind of getting lost, and I'm sure the Biden administration was thrilled with all this other stuff that's happening.
That's true. It did distract from all that.
It took everybody's eye off the ball, because before all this happened, everybody was talking about, oh my gosh, A, is he too old? But, B,
is he corrupt?
What is, where's all this money coming from? But Mike Johnson has said, no, we are going forward with this. There are way too many questions that need to be answered. And I would not be surprised to see a full impeachment inquiry.
Okay, so our congratulations to Representative Mike Johnson. We're going to tag you in a social media post, and we'll see what happens. And we hope you stick to your agenda. So far, so good.
If you don't, we'll turn on you.
We will not turn. We will call your ass out. There's a difference.
That's the difference between, I don't want to say Republicans or conservatives and Democrats is, we're not just going to back somebody just to back them.
Okay, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, so
truly, that's another. Yes. Okay. So what you mentioned the Democrats.
Sure.
Something really interesting is going on in
Democratic politics.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. You interrupted me, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Don't do that. That could get you canceled for interrupting a woman.
Was that a microaggression or is that a macroaggression?
We'll discuss it later.
Okay.
You'll make it up to me. He will. All right. So what's going on? Democratic
Are you allowed
politics?
to interrupt me?
Yes. Okay. Of course. Of course I am.
Rules here.
Yes.
Thank you. Another huge announcement. Dean Phillips has announced that he is running for the Democratic nomination for president. And I will pause for just a minute to let all the applause die down.
Okay. I feel like such a moron because once again, I'm who?
Yeah.
Who?
Dean Phillips.
Who is he?
Never heard of him.
You had to look him up too.
No, nobody's ever heard of him. Yeah, I don't even think the people in Minnesota have heard of him.
Is that where he's from?
He's from Minnesota. He's one of the suburbs of Minneapolis.
Okay.
And he actually, I give him credit. He had the balls to say, "I'm younger." He's 54 years old.
Okay, he can't run on that platform, though.
But the fact that he's calling out,
yes, that's true.
He's making everybody aware that an 80-year-old senile person in the White House is probably not a good idea. However, he did say, to preface everything before he stuck the knife in, was Joe Biden has done a tremendous job, an amazing job.
But
however, I'm younger. Yeah. So he is has basically no shot. But it makes you think. And the reason I wanted to talk about this was what's going on behind the scenes, right? Where's the first primary this year for the Democrats?
Is it Iowa?
No, they decided to push Iowa and New Hampshire off the map.
Oh,
and they went with South Carolina
because they think Biden will do well there.
Biden will get the black vote in South Carolina. A guy from Minnesota, probably not going to do too well.
Was that your Minnesota impression?
It was my Minnesota, yeah. Yeah, but back in the day, a little history lesson here. Who was it? LBJ.
Yes.
Lyndon Baines Johnson. When he got an opponent in the primary in 1960.
Oh, I remember reading about this in the Senate, for the Senate.
No, this is when he was president. And now you made me forget. Another guy from Minnesota, a senator from Minnesota, Eugene McCarthy, challenged him and actually won 40% of the vote in New Hampshire caucus. And 30 days later, that's when LBJ said, I will not accept the nomination for, he's dropping out. So.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
I thought he didn't want to because of the Vietnam War. I thought he was reluctant to run again.
When you lose 40% of the vote in New Hampshire, that doesn't help.
Wow. Okay.
It kind of makes it
all right. So I'm going to bring us back to where we are today.
Okay.
All right. So let's bring us back to this. I've already forgotten his name. Dean Phillips, Representative Dean Phillips. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he's younger. He's willing to go up against the Democratic machine.
Yeah, that just set off bells and whistles, right? Nobody just decides to jump into the race on the Democrat side without first getting a wink and a nod.
Especially from the House.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, let's be honest.
Yes.
You usually don't go straight from the House to the presidency. But everybody sort of knows or expects or is talking about Gavin Newsom. And in fact, he has a debate against Ron DeSantis at the end of November.
In fact, Gavin Newsom was in China this past week, forging partnerships there, ostensibly for California. But everybody knows what he was doing there, trying to up his credentials for being a foreign.
He doesn't have foreign policy experience. So if you travel to China, you can get foreign policy experience immediately.
Correct.
Like that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
he wants it so bad.
Oh yeah, and
so bad.
I understand the strategy, right? Biden is so old; his poll numbers are abysmal.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
I remember looking at the poll numbers, and I think, was it from Real Clear Politics? I don't remember. It was a couple different polls combined, but his numbers at this time in his presidency are lower than President Trump, than Obama, than Bush W. I mean, he's not quite as low as President Jimmy Carter, but he's almost there.
Yeah, I think they're neck and neck.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah. With those numbers, it makes you wonder, why more people haven't officially come forward. And I think that's because of Barack Obama.
Okay, do explain.
Well, who is really running what we have now? And it is the Obama people that are in there.
Right.
They are embedded in high positions everywhere in the government. We know Obama is still pulling the strings. So that's why my antenna goes up when everybody starts pushing Gavin Newsom, because Obama, if he still wants to control things behind the scenes, it's got to be somebody he can control. There's no way he can control Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's ego's bigger than Obama's, which is saying something. Not quite Trumpian, but it's up there. And I just can't see, unless they work out some sort of backroom deal.
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Biden he's too old,
Mhm.
he's too frail, and his policies suck. That's the other bottom line. They just suck. Like, I don't think, who said it? Are you better off today than you
Reagan.
were 4 years ago? Yeah, was it
The
Reagan?
Ronald Reagan. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I think, every Republican candidate needs to say that. Are you better off? I mean, look at gas prices, look at food prices. I mean, wasn't it during the Clinton years when someone said it's the economy, stupid?
Yeah. James Carville.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
All right.
Against George
And
H.
even
W.
James
Bush.
Carville has expressed his concern about
Yeah.
Biden on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast. Highly recommend. He was very honest. He's concerned.
Yeah, everybody sees it. This is the absolute classic definition or example of, is it the king has no clothes?
Emperor.
Emperor has no clothes. Yeah, I mean, everybody sees Biden is out of it, right? He just has no clue, and he can't do the job. He spends more time on vacation than anything.
Yeah.
Anybody ever in this. You fight your entire career, 50 years to become president, and then you're taking 40% of your time off.
I do have a random question about Newsom.
Okay.
Is he married?
You're the California guy. Yeah.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I forget to who. After Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle. Yeah, I knew
that was his first wife.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Could be some interesting stories there, right?
Yes.
Since now she's married to Donald Trump Jr.
Did they actually get
I
married?
believe they did.
Oh, okay. All right. So
if not, they're shacking up. But yeah, got to be some interesting bedtime talk there. Right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Are you ready to comment on what has been the news of the last 3 weeks?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Israel, Hamas, all that. What I wanted to say, for me is personal. In my background, I was actually spent most of my life in South Florida, over 50 years. And South Florida, in the Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale area, is the third highest concentration of Jews in the world.
In the world?
Yeah, it's Israel, New York, and South Florida.
Yeah, interesting.
It is huge. In fact, the funny story is.
Oh, this is a good story.
Is my oldest son, who at the time was in, I think, like middle school, and he was learning math and learning percentages. And so I was quizzing him on different things just to see if he really was understanding. And I said, okay, Alex, what do you think, based on what you see here, is the percentage of Jewish people in the world? And he said, 30%.
I thought he said 50%.
No, I think it was like 30 to 40%, if I recall. And
which was probably true of South Florida.
Yeah. So basically, that tells you where I am from. There was a huge Jewish population. Great. Obviously, I spent so many Jewish friends, spent so many Seders and whatnot, celebrating all that kind of good stuff. But I was wrong. And I'm not afraid to admit that I was wrong. When being around so many Jewish people for so long a time, you hear the persecution stories, and I would do the internal eye roll, right? Like, oh boy, really? We're going back to the Holocaust now again. Understand, obviously horrible, but that was 60, 70 years ago. Are we still, going back 2,000 years on the persecution of the Jews?
So when your Jewish friends were talking about this, you were doubtful, is what you're saying?
I wasn't doubtful. I was just, I don't want to say, God, get over it, but it was a while ago. I'm not seeing that stuff now.
Okay.
I don't see people being persecuted all the time.
So I want to make it really clear. You were not a Holocaust denier.
Oh, no.
You were just saying, let's move on.
Gosh, no. Let's look forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of religions always look into the past and whatnot. I get that. But I was wrong. I was completely wrong. And
in terms of what?
In terms of what we are seeing now.
So we still live in a world with anti-Semitism.
My word.
Yeah.
I knew, obviously, in the Middle East, when you've got Hamas and the Palestinians, where their charter actually says the Jews must be eliminated, that's something big. But to see it here in the United States coming out the way it has.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. It is disgusting.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Before I comment, sorry to our audio people, our audio podcast listeners. No, don't worry about it. My earpiece just dropped out. It's gone. Oh, well, it happens. So I'm glad you brought up Hamas because I believe it was Alan Dershowitz was on Megyn Kelly's show, and he was so clear that these anti-Israeli protests on campus. There's a difference between being pro-Palestine and being pro-Hamas. And I thought that was such a great distinction because I agree. We believe in free speech. I believe you should be able to protest on campus. I don't have a problem with that. But there is a big difference between being pro-Palestine and then saying that, from the river to the sea, and that's saying you want to wipe Israel off the map. You want to eliminate all Jews. That's not pro-Palestine. That's pro-Hamas. That's pro-terrorism. That is a completely different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to see just the amount of hatred that comes out in these college people, these college, I hate to say kids, because most of them are legally adults. And to see it through the instructors, the professors, the administration, and the weak response that these presidents of these universities have had. And one thing that's making me very happy is a lot of these Jewish donors now to the Harvards, to all the Ivy Leagues are saying F you.
Yeah.
We see what you're really like. You're not getting my money.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, they do have what, $25-40 billion in reserves.
Not all of them,
endowment.
though. Not all of them.
But you're not going to hurt some of the big ones right away. But
it sends a message.
It just shows. And back to my original point is I was wrong. There is the anti-Semitism is off the charts at these places when kids are getting locked in libraries for their safety and people are trying to bang down the doors. These videos that you're seeing out online, it's insane.
Yeah. And since you shared a personal story, I will as well. My college roommate and really good friend for a long time, Anna, is Jewish. And I went to every Passover at her home. Her first son is my godson, Jonah, who's now in college or maybe even out of college now. And I didn't really understand it either. I didn't. But I will say she told me the most interesting story. Her family immigrated to the U.S. when she was 13. She didn't speak a word of English. And it wasn't until they were in the U.S. that her parents sat her and her brother down, I believe he was 9, and told them that they were Jewish. Wow. Because in Hungary, and this would have been in the 70s and 80s, they pretended like they were Christian. They were so worried about the backlash and violence against them during that time. You have to think we're talking Cold War, that they didn't raise their children Jewish until they moved to the United States. And that's why, as far as I know, to this day, she celebrates both Hanukkah and Christmas because she grew up with Christmas until the age of 13. And again, I didn't fully understand it. And one more thing about the protest on campus, I want to say, all for free speech, all for protest. That's one of the rights that we have in the U.S., the right to assemble, right? Mm-hmm. Peaceful protest, not violent protest. And I'm not even going to go into the definition because I know it's been warped. Okay. But peaceful protest. I'll stop there.
But, those peaceful protests, air quotes, the people that are doing them are the same groups that were out in 2020. The Black Lives Matter,
but that's my point. Those weren't peaceful.
Right, they weren't. Exactly. So that's where we're going. Unfortunately, it could be. And we certainly don't want to see that. So, yeah.
Gosh, heavy. It's been like a heavy couple of weeks.
It is. And it's so difficult to watch that, day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, then I think this is the perfect time to lighten things up with This Week in Woke.
Oh, okay. I'm going to actually increase my IQ 20 points by putting on my glasses.
Okay. So, I just want to add for the record that our cat is on my lap and my entire leg's asleep. Okay. So yeah, that's how dedicated I am, that I am not like jumping up and down right now.
Well, the Week in Woke this week is the Oregon State Board of Education decided to remove the requirement to show proof of mastery in reading, writing, and math through a standardized test in order to graduate from high school until 2029. So meeting those standards was deemed a harmful hurdle for students of color, disabled students, or those learning English as a second language. The standardized test will still be given, but will not play a role in determining whether students receive their diplomas.
Okay, can we just insert the face plant emoji?
Yeah,
What the fuck?
This is, the great orator, George W. Bush. Okay, he really wasn't a great orator.
Oh, was I supposed to interject there? Oh, okay.
No, that's my pause of everybody going, he sucked as a speaker.
Yes, okay.
Actually had one of the greatest lines in that.
It was written for him, but still,
but delivered well, and it's the soft bigotry of low expectations.
I agree.
This is the poster child for that.
When were these standards paused?
COVID, of course.
Oh, okay,
2020, COVID. Okay. God forbid people actually can't learn if they're not in a setting. Now, I understand learning probably did go down, but it went down for everyone.
Yes, because children can't typically learn over Zoom. I mean, come on.
No. But so we're going from 2020 to 2029. We're going an entire decade of children. Now, think if you're an employer out there and you see somebody graduated from a Oregon high school in between the years 2020 and 2029, you're going to be like,
it's going to be like the lost generation.
Yeah, you can work in the mailroom.
The COVID kids. Yeah, that is, part of me. If we had a producer in our ear, I would say I would love to know. I think it's somewhat ironic that the Oregon State Board of Education did this, because I would love to know how many minorities actually live in the state of Oregon, because not many.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's just
should have looked that up.
It's not a very diverse state.
Yeah,
in that respect.
But still, what's the message you are sending to those children that you're calling out? That
I agree.
You're a person of color, so you probably can't pass anything.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And as a former teacher, I always felt like that most students were capable of rising to the level of expectation, which is why when I was a teacher, my expectations were extremely high. And did every student get there? No, but they sure tried hard. They sure wanted to, and they did their best. And it was incredible to see students go from being F students to at least being a C student, because they started putting the effort and they started to realize that was an expectation. I think that's true as a parent too. Yeah. I mean, you can have high expectations for your children and they'll do their best to rise to them. But if you have low expectations, they'll
meet them.
They'll meet them.
Oh yeah.
And not, and not rise above that. So
this is what I call the mindset of 2020, the LCD.
What's that?
Lowest common denominator.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Let's go to math, which they won't understand because they don't have to be proficient in math. By the way, it's great because they're saying that we're still going to give the tests, but we're not going to use the test results for you to graduate. Well, it turns out last year, only 2/3 of the people actually took. You don't even have to take it if you don't want to. So in a couple of years.
So the test is optional?
Yeah. In a couple of years,
and then
they're not even going to take the test.
No.
You're going to get like 10% of the people that actually want to take a test, to do it. And but we are lowering the standards to the lowest common denominator. That is not good for the United States of America.
It is not. I totally agree. All right. That was not a very uplifting This Week in Woke.
Well, we got a new speaker.
Yeah. No, I meant the segment just now. It wasn't very uplifting.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot you can really pull out of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, is that it for us?
We are done.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. And please follow us on all social media platforms. We are live most Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, we had a little blip last Sunday, but
we actually made an episode.
We did. We did a great episode.
However, we should have actually put it out with the disclaimer that it is only for the hearing impaired. So if you're a lip reader, you could have watched the episode. Yes, we're going to redo it. We're so sorry. So we filmed it. The sound was just off. The sound was off. Anyway, So please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, available wherever you're listening right now. And soon we are going to have a locals community that you can join, support, and get behind the scenes footage and learn more and follow us, everything on our website at myfavoriteconservative.show. That's myfavoriteconservative.show. And we will see you next week. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye.